Imagine walking into a haunted house, but instead of bloody chainsaws and creepy clowns, it's your reflection. And she's 10 years in the future. She looks at you with tired eyes and a half smile, the one that kind of hides more than it shows. And she's holding the dreams that you never chased. She's the version of you who didn't go after her dreams, and she's the one holding all of the regrets. Regret is way scarier than taking that first step, in my opinion, because the truth is, fear fades, but regret, she lingers. And I'm sure even now in your life, you can think of a regret or two that you are still holding on to. When you look back, you think, I should have or I could have. And this is completely natural. But what if we could start breaking that pattern of regret and we could start going after what we truly want? Welcome back to Taking Up Space with Jordan. I'm your host, Jordan, and I created this podcast to help women everywhere build the roadmap to their dream life. Over the past 2 weeks, we've been kind of talking about how to discover your dream and what that dream actually is. We've been peeling back the layers of what you actually want outside of other people's expectations. But today, we're diving into the scariest thing of all, which is starting. Because discovering your dream is beautiful. It's Pinterest boards, it's inspiration, it's clarity, it's excitement. But starting is messy. It's sweaty palms, it's racing thoughts, and that little voice that says, who do you think you are? But today, I'm going to help you face that voice. We're breaking down how to confront fear, quiet perfectionism, and stop the analysis paralysis that's keeping you stuck. So if you're ready to dive in, keep on listening. The thing about fear is that fear gets a bad rep, but it's actually one of the, I think, most essential and key parts of us and smartest parts of us because it's primal. It's built into our DNA to keep us alive. It's the reason you don't touch fire, walk too close to a cliff's edge, or just casually pet a spider. Fear says, hey girl, that's danger ahead. But here's where things get tricky. Our bodies do not know the difference between a tiger hunting us in the jungle and the fear of posting your first video online. You might say, Jordan, that's silly. Of course I know the difference. No, you don't. To your nervous system, both of them feel like threats. So your heart pounds, your palms sweat, your chest tightens, and you might think to yourself, this is so silly. It's just posting a video online. I'm not being hunted by a tiger. But you still have the same reaction. And maybe you shut down or you just give up and you don't post that video online. And then you think to yourself, wow, I'm so lazy. Why can't I just ever stick to something? And you get caught in the trap of comparing yourself to everyone else. But here's the thing. You're not lazy. You're not broken. And you're definitely not behind. You're just scared. Our fears are learned and taught to us, and fear continues to grow and mold with the world around us as we grow. So when something similarly dangerous pops up, our brains learn to say, hey, whoa, we don't do that because that's scary and that's going to potentially hurt us. So when you are faced with something that might look and sound familiar, your fear sits up and it is at attention. And it's because it's protecting an older version of you, the one who maybe got rejected, the one who stumbled through that class presentation and sat down embarrassed, the one who said too much and then was afraid to speak again, or trusted the wrong person, or failed once and swore she'd never try again. Up to us as the adults that have healed to teach our fear that we don't need that type of protection anymore. I know that I have found myself at times having to face my fears even now as someone who has grown. I'm dipping my toes into the pool of dating. And honestly, I haven't done that since I was 18 years old. I married the person that I met when I was 18, and now I'm 31 and divorced. I've been so many different versions of myself in that time frame, and I know the consequences of what can happen when a relationship goes dark. But I also know that I can heal from that type of hurt and pain. When we are facing our fears and leaning into them to get more familiar with what they actually are protecting us from, we have to remember that fear is protecting a big part of us. It's protecting your heart and it's protecting your body. So we have to respect fear and give ourselves the compassion we need to face it so that it can begin to shrink and not feel so larger than life. Because if we don't, we get stuck in two different patterns that I want to talk about specifically today for fear, which is perfectionism and analysis paralysis. I wanted to specifically talk about perfectionism because I think women have a tendency to want everything to be perfect. We focus on everything being perfect before we do something. We wait for our resumes to be perfect before going after that job or promotion. We deep clean our houses and make sure the pillows are just right before we bring someone over. We expect to have the perfect family photo. The list goes on and on. But you know what that perfectionism is hiding? It's hiding your fear of being seen as a failure, your fear of not being enough, your fear of judgment. Perfectionism tricks you into thinking that control equals safety. That if you just prepare enough, practice enough, perfect it enough, it will all work out. But what it really does is it keeps you in the waiting room of your own life. You're waiting till you lose that 10 pounds before you start dating. You're waiting till you have one more project under your belt before you go to your director about that promotion. You are waiting. And I think that's the saddest thing and most frustrating thing I hear sometimes coming from women is the I'm waiting till. Because why are you waiting? Are you waiting because you're scared of what might happen? Are you waiting until you are absolutely perfect, which is something that will never happen? Because you will never be this pure, perfect person. None of us will be. I know it sounds cheesy to say, but I think a lot of us forget that what makes us all so unique and perfect is when we are just ourselves, when we show off our quirks, our dented edges, the pieces that are held together by tape and glue, because the cost of perfectionism, it's just too steep. You end up burning out, procrastinating on your goals and dreams. And when you are trying to be perfect, every decision is a test that you could fail. And eventually you will. Because you can't be perfect 100% of the time. You can't be the perfect wife. You can't be the perfect mother, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, the perfect whatever. The only thing that you can be perfect at is being yourself. We're going to go into how to shed how the I need to be perfect mindset in just a bit, but I want you to think for just a second about what areas in your life are you currently trying to be perfect in? Is it your career, your love life, your parenting journey? And then I want you to think about what if you did get it all wrong? What is the worst thing that could happen? I want you to hold on to that thought and we're going to loop back to it. The other pattern we get stuck in is analysis paralysis. This pattern is when overthinking a situation prevents you from making a decision, often because you are overwhelmed by too many options or information. This happens a lot of the times when we are overstimulated. It happens to me a lot when my systems have failed. I don't know where to start and I just stay frozen in time, basically. I move around the piles of laundry in my house. I don't think about the dishes that have piled up in the sink. I don't write a to-do list because I know that even if I did, I wouldn't know where to start. Analysis paralysis, though, is usually what happens when you are afraid of making a mistake. This can lead to anxiety and stress. This pattern happens most often when you are not ready to get clear about what you want in your life or even for your day. So you might try and start to take control by maybe doing some time researching your decisions or planning and perfecting. But guess what happens? You are not moving forward. You are staying stuck. You tell yourself you need more time. You need just one more book to read or need to reach out to someone for a piece of advice before you start. But the truth is, you are stalling because you're scared of what happens when you actually begin. When I first started podcasting, there was actually about, I think, 3 weeks between my first episode and my second. Because my first episode, I was just like, that was so terrible and bad. I can't do it until I figure it all out. Like, I need all the tools. I need all the systems. I have to do this. The truth was, though, it wasn't bad. Not for a first episode, because I did it. That was the goal. But my brain, the perfection side of me, the side of me that was afraid people were going to make fun of me, those fears were running the show. So I did research. I thought about what I was going to say in my next episode. I looked into equipment. It was just a way for me to put off doing it again because it was so scary the first time. And it is scary every time I sit in front of this mic. I don't know if what I'm saying is going to piss someone off or if someone might want to leave a hate comment, but that doesn't mean I don't try. I had it to let go of that perfectionist mindset. And I had to start overcoming my fears and trying in order to do that. And this is how you battle perfectionism and analysis paralysis. We get clear about what we actually want. A lot of times what we want is being blocked by what we fear. So let's say you want to be a writer, but you are afraid that you are going to fail. So you try to create the perfect main character. You do the research and the world building, but then you never write. You come up with reasons for why you couldn't write for a couple pages today or tomorrow. You're busy. You have other responsibilities. Then you get upset when you see a new author come onto the market and you go, well, I could do that. But then your fears pop up, and once again, you create the perfect main character. You do the research and the world building, and the cycle repeats. What if instead of letting the cycle repeat itself this time, though, what if this time you didn't create the perfect main character? What if you just sat with your pen and paper or your computer and just wrote once upon a time in a faraway land, and you just started writing? When we are first facing our fears, we have to break things down into smaller, actionable steps. You declaring that you want to write a book and be an author is great. That's a clear goal that you want. But now we need to break that big dream into smaller dreams so that we can navigate that huge fear that we are also carrying. Because the art of starting builds into the art of consistency. When we keep showing up for the things that we want and believe in, we build that confidence in ourselves. That confidence is what stands against the storm of your fear and gives it the middle finger. Because momentum builds belief. And once you start to realize something powerful. Fear can't stop a woman in motion. Because once you take that first step, you prove to your brain that you're not in danger anymore. You're just growing. So where do you begin? And maybe most importantly, why should you? Well, because your dreams matter. And your fears, they're not the villain of your story. They're more like that overprotective friend who means so well, but doesn't realize that you are ready to defend yourself now. Fear is simply the part of you that still believes safety equals sameness. It tries to keep you comfortable, even when comfort is the very thing that is holding you back. So how do you move past it? So first thing you're going to do is get clear on your dream as well as name your fear. Maybe your dream is to write a book, start a family, change careers, or finally open your heart to love again. Whatever it is, I want you to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Because when you name your fear, it becomes smaller. It loses some of its power. Now I want you to say both your dream and your fear out loud. For example, I once said, I want to build a podcast that inspires women to go after their dreams, but I'm afraid people will make fun of me. When you hear those words out loud, you realize something. The dream is so much bigger than the actual fear. The next thing you're going to do is write down 2 small steps that you can take today. And I mean today, not tomorrow, not next week. I don't want you to think I need a whole plan for my life right now. I want you to think of your dream like it's a recipe. You want to make a pizza. Okay, then first you need the dough. So what's the dough of your dream? Maybe it's buying a journal. Maybe it's researching a class, or it's sending one email. Whatever it is, write down 2 small things that you could do today that move you just an inch closer. Our next step is we are going to take action today, not tomorrow. I want you to take those 2 steps and do them. Again, not tomorrow, today. Even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, even if it's scary. Because every time you act, you prove to yourself that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about moving anyway. Today, we talked a lot about how to face your fears, how to battle perfectionism and analysis paralysis. But I also want to remind you that it's okay to be scared. Fear means you're doing something that matters to you. It means that you care about it. You want it to be successful. You want to discover your dreams. And that's exciting and it's scary. The goal of today's episode was not to make you fearless. It was not even to diminish fear. It was to remind you that fear is there for a reason. It is there as a protector and a sign that what you want matters deeply to you. You can't eliminate fear, and you shouldn't, but you do have to learn to face it and walk with it. So here's your challenge. Take 1 small step today. Write the paragraph, hit post, send the text, do something that reminds your brain we are not stuck anymore. Because next time you walk into that haunted house, I want the version of you waiting there to be the one who tried, the one who showed up, even with shaking hands, the one who took up space even when her voice trembled. Fear will always be there, but so will you. And you are stronger than the boogeyman. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend who's stuck in her own haunted house of what ifs. And if you're ready to keep building your dream life, you can actually now access my ready to download and use vision board journal. You can find that on my website by just going to www.takingupspacewithjordan.com. Wherever you are in the world, I do hope that you can take one step today to start facing your fears. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep taking up space. Kisses!